Welcome back to the Football Frenzy Kickoff Special. We spent the last segment talking about teams. Now we're going to focus on players, and nobody knows our local talent better than our two guests, Allen Trieu from Scout and Fox Sports, and Josh Helmholdt here from Rivals and Yahoo. And they submitted their list of top 10 players from the Wood TV 8 viewing area, and 5 of those players showed up on both your lists. And Josh, let's start out with East Kentwood offensive lineman John Kenoy. What makes him so good?
You know, of all the guys we're going to talk about today, if I had one guy that I wanted to start my team off with today, I think it's going to be John Kenoy. I think he can play at the highest levels of college football. A Western Michigan committed to them early. Great grab for P.J. Fleck and his staff. He's a guy who the only knock on him is that he's 6'3", doesn't have the greatest size, but at the same time, he checks off every other box. Plays with outstanding strength, has great feet, and he's a little bit nasty, which is what you want in that offensive line position.
What'd you like about him, Al?
Well, you know, his dad played college football. I think you can see that he's grown up around the game. He's technically very sound. He plays, as Josh said, he plays tackle for his high school, but he's probably going to move inside at the next level because he's not 6'5", 6'6", but he has everything else that you'd want. And obviously, he's a great football player when the lights are on Fridays, but he really hit the camp circuit hard this summer, and he went against some of the top guys, not just in the Midwest, but in the country, and he more than held his own. So I agree with Josh. He's a really, really good get for Western Michigan.
All right, one of his teammates in college will be John Wasink out of South Christian. Are you guys a little surprised that it's Western and not maybe a Big Ten or something? Or what is it that keeps him from being, you know, one of the top-tier quarterbacks in the country?
Yeah, I think, you know, you look at 150 players in the country, quarterback position are able to grab Division I scholarship offers. That's a small number. When you're talking about every team's taking, you know, 5, 6, 7 offensive linemen, they're taking 1 quarterback. And so Wasink is in that rare group where he's a guy that, you know, is able to compete against a very smaller number of you know, players for offers, and you know, his moxie, his game leadership, and obviously he's got the arm to be able to play at that Division I level.
What are the intangibles you think he brings to the table, Alan?
Well, you know, they put a lot of trust in him. He gets to make a lot of calls at the line of scrimmage. He changes a lot of the plays. He calls a lot of the protections, and to be able to do that as a junior like he did last year says something about his intelligence, not just his intelligence, but his work ethic to really study and go into each game very prepared. And sometimes I think the quarterback position gets overanalyzed in the summer when they're in shorts and t-shirts, and that's why maybe he's not 6'6", and he's not throwing fireballs like some of those national guys, but you see him in a game, and that ball is always in the right spot, and he gets them in the right place, and I think all of those intangibles are going to make him very successful in college.
All right, next guy you guys had on your list, Mona Shores, quarterback, and University of Buffalo commit Tyree Jackson. Allen, what do you like about Tyree?
Well, I like his upside potential a lot. He's grown. You know, I saw him a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden you turn around and he's 6'4", 200 pounds, and has giant hands. He can move around the field well. But I thought he really showed a lot of toughness last year. I was at the game when they played Muskegon, and Muskegon's going to bring it. They're going to rough you up a little bit, and he kept getting up. He kept making great throws, and then over the summer you really saw the improvement. So he's a guy, when you talk about projecting to the next level, his trajectory is going upwards, and that's what I really liked about him.
He had some great weapons last year. Are we going to see a different kind of quarterback from him this year?
Well, there's no doubt he's a guy that can take over a huddle. You know, his head coach, Matt Kozak, has really helped him come along. When we saw him early on, he was a guy, you know, that the tools were there, but the refinement and, you know, the rough edges had to be smoothed out. That's where we've seen his progression over the last year plus, is that now his mechanics are tighter, his release is shorter, and he's throwing a much better ball than he was when he started out.
All right, you guys also agreed on Kennewick Hills offensive lineman Derek Smith, a Central Michigan commit.
Yeah, Derek, you know, when you look at Derek, you know, again, I think the knock on him is that he's 250 pounds. He's a guy that, you know, probably doesn't have the ideal size at the offensive tackle position right now. He also played some defensive end. I'll be interested to see where Central Michigan plays him. He can play both, but Eric Fisher was also an undersized offensive tackle who went to Central Michigan and became the #1 pick in the NFL draft. He has an outstanding athleticism repertoire there that he can move around and be able to do the things that you want at that tackle position. But, you know, we'll see where his physical development takes him. He's a guy that's a high upside guy for me.
All right, Allen, let's move on to St. Joe's offensive lineman. Wesley French plays both ways, offense, defense. He's nasty, isn't he?
Yeah, and it's surprisingly athletic for a kid who's 290 pounds. You see him in person, and he looks like almost ready for college already. I actually think he could go either way at the next level. A lot of his film last year was on the offensive side of the ball, was outstanding on the defensive side of the ball at a couple of camps. But I really think the athleticism, the ability to bend and move at 290 pounds, you don't see that a lot, and that's what I really like about Wes.
All right, so you guys had 5 other guys on your list. Let's check out those guys right now. Josh, this should be your list. Other players to watch around West Michigan if you get the opportunity.
Couple of underclassmen on here, and this, you know, actually Corey Malone-Hatcher out of St. Joseph, the only player in the region that has a Big Ten offer, and he's only going to be a sophomore. You know, Ohio State had them at his Friday Night Lights camp, really showed out well there. The sleeper on here for me is Simeon Smith. He's 6'5", 194 pounds. If he can prove that he can play a 230 plus, I think he's going to be a tight end prospect, an outstanding tight end prospect.
All right, Allen, let's take a look at your list. The other 5 players to watch: Mason Oppel, Nick Morosi, Bryce Wilker. Go ahead, tell us a little bit about some of these guys.
Well, Steven Eiper from Greenville is committed to Central Michigan, and as we talked a little bit about with Derek Smith, they seem to just be able to find these guys that are a little bit under the radar, tough, fit their system. I think Steven's going to be a really good one for them. Carter Masick is going to be a 3-year starter for East Grand Rapids, comes from obviously a great program, well coached there. And then the top 3 on that list, Mason Oppel, Nick Morosi, and Bryce Wilker, none of them currently have Division I offers, but I think a lot of players from West Michigan have slipped through the cracks in the past, gone to the D2 level, and become really good players. And I know some of the GLIAC schools are probably crossing their fingers a little bit about some of those guys.
I know, it's just great to love the work that you guys do. Josh, Allen, thank you for joining us, for your insight. Safe travels this year on the recruiting road as you go follow that.